Good morning. Bonjour. I'm Jambo. Welcome to the day two of GNI for Africa. That's Google News Initiative for Africa. We are delighted that you are able to join us and spend some time with us today. Do remember our hashtag, which is hashtag GNI Africa, and do tag us at Google Africa and at Google News in it. Google News in it. This morning, we'll be hearing from Lisa Varga, Head of Growth for Upskill Digital, who runs Google's Digital Growth Programme workshops, and Tara Lajumoke, Managing Director of FT Strategies, who runs Google's Digital Growth Programme Labs. Today, Lisa will be focusing on the short, bite-sized workshops, which cover five main topics within digital transformation, ranging from business strategy and reader revenue to audience development and ads revenue strategy. She will then hand over to Tara, who will cover the more in-depth labs aimed at providing publishers with frameworks and tools to take their digital transformation to the next level. Enjoy the training and don't forget to note down your questions, as there will be time after both presentations for you to address Lisa and Tara. And now, over to you, Lisa.
Hi there, my name's Lisa Varga. I am the Head of Growth at Upskill Digital, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Digital Growth Programme as part of the Google News Initiative. We are launching these in Sub-Saharan Africa, and we're really excited about it. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about the structure of the workshop, what's on offer, when we launch, how you can get involved, and then we'll go through a little bit of a taster session as well at the end. The Digital Growth Programme workshops are structured into 18 workshops and 8 roundtables. They are all delivered live with the workshops available on demand. Our workshops are about 45 minutes long and are delivered through YouTube Live. They have the opportunity to ask Q&A as you go, and I will go into how they're structured. We have 60-minute roundtables, which are available for you to get a little bit more in-depth one-on-one time with the trainer and facilitator, and also learn a little bit from your peers in a meet session. So they are much more intimate, and they are available for you to get a bit more knowledge on what you've learned throughout the workshops. So the workshops run in a 3-week sprint, and these are available from October to November across various regions across SSA, but because they're available on demand, you can also go back and watch them whenever you need to. So the topics that we cover in our workshops, so as I said before, we have 18 workshops and they split into 5 topics. We start off with business strategy, and that's really geared towards define your publication's niche, looking at how you can refine your publishing strategy and establish a newsroom, and looking at how that maximizes your coverage. This is geared towards senior leadership, talent and HR personnel, marketing and content teams. If we move on to audience development, and that's really around sort of creating content your readers want to engage with, optimizing your website and platforms, and hopefully that will increase reader retention, and building newsletters that drive brand loyalty. So this content piece is really geared towards your content teams, marketing teams, IT, and also senior leadership. Data management is the third topic that we have. Here we delve into understanding the range of data sources and analytic tools available to publishers, and then we go into exploring the ways in which you can leverage their insights. This is really going to be beneficial for content teams, marketing, IT, operations, and finance would also really benefit from this topic. Advertising revenue is our fourth topic, and that goes into establishing your advertising strategy, creating an exciting offering for potential clients, and also driving additional revenue streams from your publication. Senior leadership, marketing, sales, and finance are teams that might benefit from this. And then our last topic is around reader revenue. So this looks at identifying how you can gain revenue directly from your readers, move them through the conversion funnel, and also keep them coming back for more. Again, senior management, marketing, sales, and finance would really benefit from this. These sessions are designed for all levels of your organization, so you don't need to make sure that every person from your marketing team is able to join. As I said, they're available on demand, so sign up and make the most out of these sessions. Running for 3 weeks, we have business strategy and audience development in the first week, data management in the second, and advertising and reader revenue in the last week. Wonderful. So if we deep dive for a minute into the different workshops that are available, if you remember, we mentioned there are 18 workshops available across the 5 different content topics. So if we look at business strategy, we start off with digital publishing success and move on to establishing a digital newsroom, and we finish off with growing your readership. Growing your readership is something that I'm going to deep dive into a little bit later on. Audience development is made up of creating content for digital, optimizing your digital assets, and crafting digital newsletters. Again, really looking at that content piece and how you can optimize your assets for your readers. Data management has 4 topics in it. We start off with understanding your data and then look at how that can be used in data-driven content. So really maximizing what you do with your data and how you can use it within your content. We look at NCI and RCI, so that's news consumer insights and real-time consumer insights. We get to grips with these tools from Google, and then we also look at Web Vitals as the last workshop in this topic. Advertising revenue is also made up of 4 topics. Again, we start off with establishing your advertising strategy, so looking at that sort of baseline workshop on how to really look at establishing that strategy. We then look at optimizations of the ad revenue. We look at data and ads, and we finish off this topic with programmatic strategy. And then our last topic is reader revenue. So again, we look at reader revenue models, all the models available within this sort of topic cluster. We then look at assessing the opportunity. We look at optimizing your user funnel, and then we finish off the 3-week sprint with alternative income streams. So if we look at the successes we've had so far with the Digital Growth Programme from the Google News Initiative, we have reached 10 regions so far across 8 languages, training over 4,000 and engaging almost 700 publishers. So you can see here, we've done from a regional perspective, we've hit quite a lot of European regions. We piloted Nigeria last year. We had lots of success within Nigeria, which is why we are scaling our offering across sub-Saharan Africa. So we've spoken about how we've had success in scaling this across European markets and how we've piloted in Nigeria over the last 12 months. But I wanted to give a little bit of insight into how we have made sure that these workshops are really optimized for the sub-Saharan market. We are streaming all workshops through YouTube, which means that you can stream through applications such as YouTube Go, which really means that you can choose the bandwidth that you're able to watch these sessions through. We've made sure that all of our workshop and content is really optimized for low bandwidth as well as mobile consumption. So you can watch these on the go as you need to, as you like. And as I said, these are available on demand. So even if you can't make the live session, you are more than able to watch them at your convenience whenever you have connection to Wi-Fi. So they are mobile optimized and they're also bandwidth optimized. So hopefully that helps with the way that you can consume this information. Cool. So I spoke a little bit about workshops and roundtables, but we also have online tools and product training available. So again, workshops are available live and on demand, and we will be running these workshops from November to December 2021. Roundtables go along with the workshops. They aren't available on demand, but they are interspersed without the training, so make sure that you register. Online tools and products are available on demand, and they are a really nice addition to the content that we cover within the workshops. So make sure that you gain access to those. So where can you gain access to all of these wonderful free trainings and roundtables? So you can sign up with this link, so news.withgoogle.com/digital growth program -SSA. Again, I mentioned who the different topics were for, but who this is really for is any and all publishers at the start of their digital journey. We've designed these to help you digitally scale your business and explore revenue options and build an engaging following online. So once you've completed the workshops as a value add, either live or on demand, you will qualify for a certificate of completion per topic. So we are certifying the training as well. So send your teams down. Again, it is, if you're a small publisher and you are the person that does it all, that's totally fine. You will benefit from any and all of the sessions that you attend. Cool. So we're going to go into a little bit of a taster session for growing your readership, which is one of the sessions that we offer as part of the Digital Growth Programme. It's part of the business strategy bucket, and we are going to dive right in. So if we dive right in and we look at our focus for this session, or our agenda, all of our workshops are segmented into 3 different sections. So when we look at growing your readership, we start off with changing behaviors, move on to reader relevance, and then we finish off by building loyal readers. So if we dive into what changing behaviors is going to cover, that's looking at how the world is ever changing and so is your reader. So we really deep dive into what it is your customer wants and how changing behaviors around us really affect your reader and your customer. Then we move on to reader relevance, and looking at how it's important to remain relevant for your reader throughout. And lastly, finishing off with building loyal readers. So what is the journey your reader is on, and how can you be there with them when it matters? How can you foster that loyal readership? Cool. So we're going to dive into the first section, which is changing behaviors. Technology has changed people's lives, and it continues to change their lives through mobile and through desktop, and tech is here to stay. So as we think about how tech has changed people's lives, let's think about how it has changed your reader's behavior as well. So I'm going to start off with a question. I'm going to pose a question to you. How would you describe your readers? So if you start to really think about how would you describe your readers, and write down sort of a couple of sentences on how you would classify and describe your readers. So if we then delve a little bit deeper, when you start thinking about your readers, research suggests that readers are increasingly curious, empowered, and savvy. So as the world changes, readers are also changing, and that is in terms of their behavior and expectation. So research suggests that your readers are increasingly curious. They want to find new and exciting options. Let's face it, we've all become a little bit research obsessed. Every decision we make has got to be an informed one. We live in the age of technology. We have Google at our fingertips. We can easily search things. So think about that when you're thinking about your reader. They are curious and they have, the world at their fingertips. Research also suggests that people are now increasingly curious even about the small, seemingly mundane things. So in the past 2 years, we've seen mobile searches for shower curtains more than double. So your readers, because they have this information at their fingertips, they're making use of it. Mobile searches for alternatives for have grown by over 70% in the last 2 years. So you can see that your readers are increasingly curious about the things that they engage with every day. They're also empowered. So they're wanting things, and they're wanting things fast and on their own terms. So according to research, again, lots of research gone into this, consumers are also incredibly demanding. Thinking about wanting things and wanting things fast. They expect brands to know what would be useful for them, and then cater to them personally without introducing themselves each time. So they're expecting, our data is shared, and readers are expecting brands to be making use of this and not having to explain themselves every time. So an example of this would be local searches without near me. So we've kind of outgrown that search of near me, which is quite interesting. And lastly, if we look at how they are increasingly savvy, they're using tech and they're trying new things. So previous search has shown how savvy users are becoming. Google has been able to identify your location when searching for many years. But what searches like the previous one show us is how savvy the user is becoming. So 60% growth in mobile searches include for me in the past 2 years. So we're really seeing how the desire of the user in their customization of search and their personal experience is becoming more and more the norm. All these factors are things that you should be considering when you're thinking about your reader. So their buying behavior is changing too, and we're living in a world that is more and more subscription economy based. So businesses like Netflix and Spotify are leading the way and changing how users pay for things. Gartner predicts that by 2023, 75% of organizations selling direct to consumers will offer some kind of subscription service. So research is very interesting there. We're going to move on to reader relevance. So, what is reader relevance, and have you thought about it when you're thinking about your audience? Well, reader relevance is the art of knowing what your audience wants. So, today's consumers navigate a high choice, multi platform environment to find their news content. There's a lot of information and content available, so understanding their news consumption habits and what's relevant to them and why they read what they do is a really complex process. But all is not lost, and we have some great recommendations on how to make sure that you are staying relevant to your reader. So reader relevance leads to loyal readers, which is a win. Obviously, the more loyal your readers are, the more they stick around. So the idea is simple. If a reader reads an article that is relevant to them, the chances are they will return again and read more articles, and in turn, they become a loyal reader. So you can see how we're sort of starting to draw the connections between the relevance of your content and creating those loyal readers. Right, so we are going to move on to a little bit of an activity. So if you feel like it, get out a piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to start looking at how you can create reader personas. And now this is really your North Star when you're looking at digital publishing success. This is a tried and trusted 5-step formula for helping you define a detailed profile or persona for your reader. So again, if you want to follow along and take out a piece of paper and a pen, or your phone or whatever you would like, and start to write these down. We're going to start with one persona, but there's nothing stopping you from doing multiple customer personas. And to be honest, most publishers will have more than one persona when they're thinking about who their customers are, to look at all the different possibilities that we cover when you're looking at potential readers for your publication. So your content will depend on various factors, including whether the audience prefers to read online or print. And obviously, as we're moving more and more towards a digital age, online is becoming more and more commonplace, but that doesn't mean that all readers want to consume content online. And these preferences come down to things like age, cultural interests, and then looking at other sort of nuances which we define in our demographics. But first, you've got to look at defining your customer segment, and then you'll be able to set the number of customer personas that you think are relevant to you, and you can start building out their profiles. But don't worry, start small, start with one, and we're going to go through it in a little bit more detail now. So if we look at the first step, that's really around basic information or demographics. So what are their personal demographics look like? What information such as age, gender, level of education, job and salary can you get when you're thinking about a specific customer persona? Sometimes it helps to name your customer personas and actually start to give them a bit of a personality. And if you're able to engage with your customers, then, feel free to give them a real name. But you can go a bit deeper into those personal demographics as well. So looking at hobbies and other things that make up the personal information of your customer persona. Second, we move on to goals. So determine the goals and challenges that this persona has. So this type of information reveals more specific data about their personality and their needs. So we're looking at that both in near and far terms. So looking at their needs both now and into the future. And then we move on to values. So describe the values that you think that this reader finds important. And again, if you can actually get to talk to some of your readers, it's a great place to start. So think about things that he, she, or they are afraid of. So for instance, if your ideal consumer is afraid of spiders, it's probably not a good idea to write an article about what great pets arachnids make. I don't think that would go down so well. So understanding their values and their fears and some of their sort of aspirations is a really good place to start thinking about what news they would and wouldn't like to consume. So values both dictate things that you should be gearing towards, as well as things that you maybe should be steering clear of. The fourth pillar looks at routine. So again, put yourself in the shoes of your customer and really get under the skin of this persona. So if you can speak to a customer, do it, and think about asking them how to describe what one typical day looks like in his, her, their lives. And this provides more knowledge into their feelings and their needs. And then if you, again, are able to engage, make sure you're writing down like real and exact quotes and you're really putting a face to the name. So get under the skin of a day in the life of your customer. And this will start to help you figure out what the persona thinks about and what they care about. And then you can check how that changes. And again, feel free to get in touch with your customers and ask these questions, because it starts to clearly reveal the type of article or type of content that your audience is looking for. And 5 is the pitch stage. So what we recommend is that you write a little bit of an elevator pitch. So a short piece around 60 seconds in length that summarizes and puts to use all the information that you've accumulated. So try it out. Speak as if you're attempting to convince your audience to buy your newspaper, and do your elevator pitch for this persona. It really starts to sort of bring this to life. Although personas won't ever really describe your audience's exact feelings, you've got the opportunity of gathering lots and lots of quality data. And if you think about it as an example, if the persona describes themselves as being very stressed and a fan of swimming at the municipal pool, for instance, you already have found out that they're an active person, they tend to work a lot, and they might need a break. So what about thinking about writing an awesome article about how swimmers are engaging in public pools that they can read at lunch? So again, just sort of showcasing how you can build out the personas and then put them into practical use when you're thinking about creating content within your own realm. Cool. So I want to ask a question, and that would be, how can we find out whether content is relevant to readers? So this is an open question, and I would love you to think about how we can go about finding out whether content is actually relevant to readers, and ways that you might have done this in the past. So just start thinking about actually validating whether content is relevant to your readers. So here we have some Reuters research, and this simple diagram is based on a digital news report, which we've analyzed and kind of pulled out this lovely diagram that tries to sum up how we can define news relevance. So again, it's a simplistic model of the factors that help to drive and define news relevance, but it's been developed and understood by actual members of the public. So we've taken in, Reuters has taken into account feedback and gathered information from members of the public to come up with this model where we can define news relevance, or at least start to define it. And the model recognizes the importance of brand, but brand's not everything, and it's not at the expense of key factors such as proximity, sociability, previous knowledge, and above all, it puts topic of a story at the heart of news relevance. So you can really see how brand obviously does feed into it, but it's not the be all and end all. And looking at your reader and really carving out that persona is the key topic or key area that you can start to define what your topics are and how that relates to reader relevance. So who is succeeding in being relevant to their readers? I want to think a little bit about who you think is really nailing this reader relevance now. So think about brands or publications or publishing houses that you think are really relevant to their readers. We've prepared a couple. So Business Day is one. Business Day have adapted from being a purely traditional media house to growing paid news digital services and raising up to 45% of their publications revenue and increasing their audience engagement. So they're the first media house in Nigeria to have a paywall. And they've done this by their content being really local and niche, and it sustains their audience's attention. So how does it support media framework? Well, one, it's very news story focused, and two, it's got a proximity focus. So Business Day has really gone out there and looked at niche content that attracts audiences. Another one is Afrobeats Intelligence. So they have a Substack newsletter. And they're a wholly digital publication. So they cover a small segment of the entertainment industry, and they're focused on producing premium content relevant to local readers with the aim of informing, educating, and at times entertaining their readers. And how does it fit into the media's framework? So if we look back at the Reuters framework, they focus on proximity and sociability. So they are also really nailing it from a relevance perspective. If we end off this section with 3 key takeaways to really help you focus and continue to evolve your reader relevance, those would really be: put your audience at the heart of every decision that you make. Evolve with your audience. If it's not working, then try a new strategy. And the third pillar being build your product around a community. So how are you bringing value to your community? And those publications that actually meet a need are more likely to be sustainable. So think about what product you're bringing and what value you bring to your community. So these are from Mary Hogarth, author of Business Strategies for Magazine Publishers. And they're really, really valuable takeaways when we think about reader relevance. Cool. And then we move on to our last section, which is around building loyal readers. And we're going to deep dive a little bit into what that means. So here we've got a really great diagram. It's the sales funnel that I'm sure most of us have seen, but we've really looked at this within the context of a publisher's framework. So you can see here, you've got awareness, consideration, action, engagement, and advocacy. So if we look at this marketing funnel, and again, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept, but let's look at it once more. So the idea of a funnel is that it's wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. And the more you can put in at the top ultimately means the more that comes out at the bottom. So really simple framework that, again, I'm sure we have all come across, but I really want to hone in on these different stages. So the first stage being awareness. So how are we attracting new people who are currently unaware of your brand? Then we move to the second, which is consideration. So how are you standing out amongst your competition so that new audience members are actually remembering you? The third one is action. So what are you doing to compel your audience to take action and make a purchase? Fourth is engagement. So how are you leveraging social media or social channels to stay top of mind and keep your audience engaged after they've purchased with you? And the last one being advocacy. So building enough trust with your audience so that they want to recommend you to others. So how are you making your audience into advocates for you? And the aim for all publishers is to really reach potential audiences and ultimately turn views into engagement into reader revenue. So whether that's from ad subscription models or donations or other forms, the aim of a publisher is to reach audiences and turn those views into engagement and ultimately revenue. So something to consider within your ongoing strategy is being able to continue to reach as many people as possible at that awareness stage. But also don't lose sight of objectives. So it's important to be aware of how to attract people who will help you with achieving commercial success, as well as making sure that you are filling up the funnel at awareness stage. So if we look at the top of the funnel, if we look at awareness stage, so if we go back up to the top, at the top of the funnel at awareness stage, this is where your readers are finding you for the first time. So they're engaging with your content, they're visiting pages, they're downloading resources, and we're actively trying to give them the best possible experience. But why are we doing this? And the simple answer is to keep them progressing down that marketing funnel. So if we look at our awareness stage, the content needs to inform and help answer questions and solve a problem. We don't want to include anything that's over salesy or very sales-like language, or any unnecessary branding. So you don't want to scare them off with lots of sales jargon at the awareness stage. But it also needs to be easy to understand without giving too much information away. So you want to be able to give enough information to resolve their initial concerns, but also keep them wanting or searching for more. And then the last one is, again, going back to that value piece and showing the value and the benefit of doing business with you as a publication. So readers at this stage want to be informed and they want to be entertained, but they're not quite ready to make a purchase. So at this point, the reader may have only just become aware of you, and they're problem driven. So they might not even know that your product exists. Some research shows that 70% of buyers turn to Google at least 2 to 3 times during their search to find out more about their problem, potential solution, and relevant businesses. So going back to that curious and savvy point that I raised before, your readers are taking to Google and taking to sort of search engines to make sure that they are doing the research, to make sure that they're looking for their problem. So if you put solutions in front of them, it makes their life a little bit easier. So any resources that you use in this awareness stage really should be focused on developing that trust and establishing yourself as an expert in the space without rushing into the sale. And even if ads are the sort of sale, you need to be considerate of the reader at the stage and not lose them because you've scared them off with sales jargon. So again, make sure that within the awareness stage, you're starting to add value right at the start. This is just an example of what a user journey could look like. So it's helpful to understand the journey that the reader takes and how they move across devices while still building trust and relationships, and which users are and also are not likely to pay for their news. So take a little look through this example and see what you think. Again, it's just an illustration and illustrates the possible steps a readers might take before reaching that moment of consumption. So looking at that awareness and all the possible steps that your reader could take before actually making a purchase from you. Cool. And within a normal training, this is the time that I would leave to ask questions. But I will just say thank you for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to run this session. And I hope to see you in all the sessions that we have coming up in November and December.
Thank you, Lisa, for that insightful session. I will now hand over to Tara Lajumoke, Managing Director, FT Strategies. Over to you, Tara.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tara Lajumoke, the Managing Director of FT Strategies, which is a digital growth consultancy from the Financial Times. I am incredibly excited to speak to all of you today about a number of winning strategies and also to introduce you to two fantastic programs that I think would be highly relevant for your publishing ambitions. I'll first of all start off with who we are. Our mission at FT Strategies is to help companies like you to build valuable relationships with your audiences and also to future-proof your business models by building the resilient capabilities that you need to thrive. We came about from the Financial Times following the transformation journey that the organization went on over the last several years from a predominantly advertising business model to a far more diverse and resilient business model, which includes at its center subscriptions. The FT was able to build a profitable subscriptions business and achieve its North Star goal of over 1 million subscribers a year ahead of schedule in 2019. And the way we did this was by building a number of best-in-class capabilities across data, technology, audience engagement, but also through working through a North Star methodology, which is my first gift to you today. I thought I would share a bit about North Star and also about the lessons from that journey, but also the journey that we have been on as a consultancy, helping over 150 publishers and other sectors with very similar priorities help me to grow a new source of revenue because my traditional revenue line is under enormous pressure. Help me to launch new customer propositions, which allows me to innovate, but also to generate a sustainable source of profit. Help me to transform my organization to be more audience-centered. These are some of the questions that we've helped many businesses, some of whom are on this page, and as you can see, reflect a variety of sizes and digital maturity levels, but very similar goals around growth, around innovation, and sustainability. So that's enough about who we are. Let's jump into North Star. North Star is a proven methodology that has delivered outstanding results for the FT, but also for many of the businesses that we have worked with. It sets a clear and unambiguous goal that aligns everyone across the organization, across disparate departments with your own unique sets of goals and agendas, to focus on a single mission, which at the FT, as I said, was all about subscriptions. But we've also worked with many organizations who have different flavors of North Star goals, which could be, for example, about a particular position in the industry or the type of impact that you want to have. But the typical structure is that bold, ambitious goal at the top, the North Star, and a set of smart outcomes that will deliver that North Star goal. You also have a very pragmatic perspective sitting underneath those two layers, which is hypotheses that allows you to deliver on those outcomes and sub-outcomes. And finally, a set of experiments that allows you to start testing, learning, and de-risking as quickly as possible. Let's bring that to life with some of the benefits that we have found, but also I'll give you a worked out example to illustrate what that could look like for your respective organizations. 3 key benefits that we hear time and time again. One is that organizational alignment, because you often have people working on very different priorities, it is a really helpful and powerful way to galvanize the entire organization from the newsroom through to commercial, through to technology, and so on, to focus on a shared single direction with similar outcomes. The second benefit is it helps you to prioritize. In a world where you have limited resources, it's really important to be able to understand what is really going to make a difference to achieving on what's most important to the organization. And finally, it's ambitious. It allows you to set yourself a realistic challenge that hopefully helps the organization to reach its full potential. So here's an example of a fictitious publisher, but very similar to the type that we had and we have used with many organizations. So as you can see here, the particular North Star goal is quite tangible, quite bold, reaching 20 million euros. It could be Naira, it could be something else, right? Reader revenue in 2023. And underneath that particular goal, you have a set of outcomes. So we would work together to help you understand how can you actually in 2-3 years time deliver on that particular revenue goal. So we would calculate exactly what that means in terms of acquisition. So in this case, you would need to acquire 10,000 new subscribers per year. So that's doubling your current rates. The other thing as well that would be a key driver would be churn. So reducing churn from about 8% to 5%. And then finally, average revenue per user. And beneath each one of those, in this particular case, we've only solved for the middle branch. You would then have a set of sub-outcomes. So to reduce churn, what are the 2, 3, 4 most important things that you need to do? Reaching 20 or 50% of readers in terms of engagements, reducing churn of engaged readers by 20%, involuntary churn, and so on. And then very importantly, and we get great feedback from many partners time and time again about how practical a tool this is, as well as inspirational, is the hypotheses. So here you need to start to unpick, well, if we want to reduce churn of engaged readers by 20%, what do we need to do? What activities, what campaigns, what are some of the underlying assumptions? And then also, instead of waiting several months to then deliver on those, how can you quickly test those hypotheses and then determine if you kill or if you expand or pivot? So we work in a very iterative way. We believe in experimenting, testing, learning, failing quickly, if you will. And the North Star is a great framework for allowing you to do that effectively. Of course, being the FT, it also means that we have a massive toolkit of tried and tested tactics and strategies that helps many people quickly build up their hypotheses and land on sensible experiments with lower risk, higher probability of success. There are a couple of best practices that we always recommend. Make sure your North Star goal is bold and it's ambitious and quite holistic so that you really inspire the entire organization, regardless of where they sit. Think about outcomes. It's very easy to think about these things in a really theoretical way, but we have such little time to make these very important decisions that are tied to very, very important goals. So how can you tie this to tangible results that really matter for the organization, whether it's growth, whether it's revenue, profit, or something else? Hypothesis, as I said, this is a combination of data-informed assumptions as well as intuition. And finally, experimentation. And there are so many types of experiments. Most people think it has to be incredibly sophisticated, like models and so on, which are absolutely right and useful. But also it can be very basic. It could be calling up a few lapsed customers, for example, to get their feedback. Finally, I'd love to talk to you about some of the programs that we offer in partnership with the Google News Initiative for free that tackles some of these questions and helps publishers like yourselves to realize these types of opportunities using North Star methodology, but also many of the other proven strategies that we have implemented successfully across the world, including Africa. So we provide 2 free programs in particular that I think would be really useful to this particular group. Digital Immersion, which is a 5-day, highly interactive program that provides the foundation for many publishers who are relatively early in their reader revenue or diversification journeys. And it helps to tackle a number of fundamental questions and gives you lots of powerful insights to get started and to accelerate your progress through that journey. The second program is what we call Rapid Response. This is a 10-day innovation sprint that helps publishers solve a particular and a very critical one as well, problem, whether it's around retention, whether it's around design. And we do this in a really realistic way. We prototype the solution, we test it with real customers so that you are able to get first-hand feedback, but also the support of experts from the Financial Times to help you test and learn quickly. So a little bit more on digital immersion. So as I said, this is a 5-day foundational program. It typically is best suited for organizations that are on the smaller end, so less than 50. We've worked with organizations who have 6 people, 9 people, 40 people. You would typically be expected to commit at least one mid or senior level team member to attend the program, but you could also mix people through the week because we understand how busy people are. And what you get at the end of that program, in addition to feeling more confident and more excited and inspired from all of the insightful case studies and expert-led sessions, is you have a customized report that tells you how you are doing and areas to prioritize. You also have a bespoke reader revenue action plan that you can already start to implement with an initial North Star goal. You have the tools and the knowledge to support your next step with the rest of your organization. And finally, and I think most people really appreciate the value of this, a network of peers and experts across the publishing industry to reach out to for support through and after the program. This program has been incredibly well received. The feedback we've received time and time again has been very positive, and we typically get scores of above 4.5 out of 5 ratings for most of the modules, all of the modules actually, I would say. This is a sort of overview of what that looks like. It's very interactive and very practical. So we don't just, bore people with theory. We have really pragmatic exercises and activities on real topics, priorities that matter to you. So people will, for example, on day 1, define the objectives for the organization. Day 2, they will create a persona of their target, superfan, target reader, to then use that to inform key decisions around how to engage them better, what the right monetization strategy might be, a membership model, a micro payment donation model, subscriptions, e-commerce, something else. And then finally, how do you actually make this change happen? How do you go back to the rest of your organization and empower them and encourage them to come on this journey with you? The second program, I'll skip that, is Rapid Response, which, as I said, is a very, very sprint-based, really focused, fast-paced program that helps publishers to solve a specific business problem really quickly. So publishers have come to us with questions like, we need to think about our new landing page, and we want to create one which is really compelling and engaging and allows us to achieve a particular goal. Other publishers have said things like, we want to try and tackle retention or acquisition in a new market. The program suits slightly larger in comparison to digital immersion groups, or I should say publishing companies. So typically we've had publishers who are around 40-ish. We've served even larger, to 150 people in the newsroom, in their organization. We typically have a slightly larger team that is committed to this particular program. So we normally have, a designer or someone who has some sort of design background, as well as a senior manager type profile as part of a 3 or 4 person team who are involved in the program. So over the course of 10 days, and actually I think 10 days, the FT Strategies consulting team is focusing completely on the program. However, that cross-functional team isn't necessarily fully committed for the 10 days. I think it's actually about 6 days or so across 2 weeks. But then, we typically say 10 days so we can manage expectations. And it includes, as I said, design, live user testing, interviews, experts one-to-one supports, so that at the end of the program, you leave with a deeper understanding of what your customers think about that particular solution, practical experience on how to develop more of those types of solutions for other critical problems at pace. The emphasis really is doing these things quickly because we know how precious our time and resources are in the publishing world. Recommendations, including assumptions from our FT experts to help you further explore and experiment. And then finally, key next steps, including milestones, outcomes, and owners who typically feel very empowered to carry on the work. This is an overview of what that looks like. So we have a mapping phase where we identify and align on the key objectives. We have a sketching phase where we start to conceptualize potential solutions, again, drawing on our broad arsenal of expertise at the FT, but also working with many publishers across the world. Deciding, so prioritizing what we think the right solution is, and creating a storyboard, a planning board. Then we go into prototyping, very exciting. We actually start to build using tools and resources. And finally, rapidly testing and learning from customers. Finally, we have a series of digital immersion programs, which we are going to be offering. And, some of these are in other languages, but most of them are in English. So you are very, very welcome to apply. You can find more details on the FT Strategies website, ftstrategies.com/insight/digital immersion program. There is a particular program which I'm really excited, being African myself, to announce on the 29th of November, I believe, to the 3rd of December this year for sub-Saharan African news publishers, which I think will be in either English or French, depending on the level of demand. So I'm very excited to open this up to all of you. And please, please, if there aren't enough seats available, register your interest and we'll look into either communicating more dates in the future or letting you know if we happen to have more availability on those particular dates. We will also be running more rapid response sprints. I believe we've unfortunately delivered all of our sprints for this year, but we will hopefully be delivering more rapid response programs in 2022. So please watch this space and subscribe to our newsletter for more announcements. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure sharing all of that with you. I'm really excited for what's happening on the continent and thrilled that the FT and the Google News Initiative are doing their bit to help more and more publishers continue to do the critical role that they have to play around preserving quality, independent journalism for everyone across the world to enjoy. Thank you so much for listening to me. Please do reach out to me on LinkedIn, on email, if you have any questions or if I can be of any help. Very best.
Thank you, Tara, for that informative session. We are equally thrilled about what we are doing with FT Strategies. And I know you have many questions, all of you, to ask Tara and Lisa. And so I'll introduce Shweta Bhandary, who heads our Google Digital Growth Programme. And she is going to lead the Q&A session with Tara and Lisa. Over to you, Shweta.
Thanks so much, Dorothy. And hello, everyone. We're so glad you were able to join us today. As Dorothy just mentioned, my name is Shweta Bhandary, and I lead Google News Initiative's Digital Growth Program for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. So before we bring Tara and Lisa on for the Q&A, I wanted to give you a quick overview of why Google developed this program. So we launched the GNI Digital Growth Program in the summer of 2020 in Europe and then expanded it globally. Late last year, we actually introduced the program in Nigeria and had incredible numbers in terms of participation and feedback. And so here we are trying to do more in the region and expand it further. So if you'd like to be part of the workshops or the labs, please use the sign-up links on your screens right now, and you should be able to apply to the labs and sign up to the workshops. Again, they're both free, and so I highly, highly recommend you doing this. So now, without any further ado, I'm so excited to have Lisa from Upskill Digital, who are our workshops content delivery partner, and Tara from the FT Strategies, which is the consulting arm of the Financial Times. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Tara.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Shweta. Nice to see everyone again.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to jump straight in. So the first question, so Lisa, I'll just ask you, and then if you can pass over to Tara, because I think it applies to both. So who should register to these labs? So who will take most out of them? So both the workshops and the labs, Lisa.
Well, to be honest with you, Shweta, any and all publishers really. The workshops are designed for all publishers at the start of their digital journey, but we've got loads of tips and tools and resources to help publishers, as well as case studies and stories from other publishers. So even those that are a little further along their digital journey can really pick up some useful knowledge and learn something different. So if you're a publisher and you want to sort of develop your digital journey, then sign up for the workshops. And I'll pass over to Tara to talk a little bit about the labs.
Thank you, Lisa and Shweta. Similar answer. I'd say two factors, size, but also the position on your transformation journey. On size, as I said in the presentation, digital immersion is targeted, or I guess designed for smaller size publishers. So this is typically under 50 employees, whilst Rapid Response Sprint is probably larger, slightly larger. So we've worked with publishers with staff sizes of up to 150. And in both cases, we've often worked with publishers who are smaller or larger than each one of those. And then in terms of position, it really is designed for publishers who are about to begin or have just begun their transformation to more reader-centric revenue. So digital immersion, again, usually for those who are about to begin or have just started, a few weeks ago. So we tend to call it, early or nascent digital or transformation maturity. And for rapid response sprints, we have worked with publishers who are further along in that journey. So publishers who have launched some sort of new innovative revenue model a year ago, a few months ago. So that would be the target as well.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Lisa. So the next question we have here is on the format, and they want to know the format of the online workshops, Lisa.
So all of our online workshops are conducted through YouTube Live, which means they are live, but also viewable on demand. So if you missed anything or you couldn't attend a session or you want to watch it back, you can definitely do that. We do have some roundtables which are delivered also online, but through the use of Google Meets. So all of our workshops are delivered online.
A bit more about the roundtables, Lisa. What kind of format is this, and what would the publishers benefit from? How would they then benefit more like?
So our roundtables are really sort of an extension of the workshops, and we do all the roundtables per topic. And within that roundtable, as I said, it's through Google Meet. You get to interact with other publishers, so peer-to-peer learning, as well as being able to ask more in-depth questions from the facilitators and the subject matter experts.
Perfect. And Tara, for you, with respect to the labs, so obviously we said that it was going to be time intensive and in depth in terms of even the curriculum. Can you just give the audience a bit of an idea as to how time committed should they be, and how long, and what they should look out for in their calendars?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting. We actually get lots of feedback from publishers after they've attended the program who say they thought it would be a lot more time commitments and it was a lot less than they expected. But you're right, because these are, in essence, bespoke consulting programs, and the sort of level of consulting support that you would expect of a traditional consulting project, we do expect a bit more time commitments. For digital immersion specifically, we have 5 days in a single week. And within each one of those days, there's probably about 3 to 5 hours worth of sessions, exercise time, and one-to-one consulting sessions. Now, these are fairly flexible. So obviously some of those sessions are fixed, but we also have recordings. And because we allow teams to attend, we often have publishers who say, right, I'll go to these sessions, you go to those sessions. It obviously is beneficial to have a bit of continuity. So we'd recommend, no more than 2 or 3 people who are able to exchange between sessions. But the modules are designed to be flexible and to support what we know is, really busy schedule for most of the people who attend. So it's about 3 to 5 hours, flexible recordings for some sessions available. And the one-to-one consulting sessions are exactly that. So again, we do these at times that work for people and people get highly personalized recommendations. So that's digital immersion. Rapid response, this is across 10 days, and we have a few gaps. We typically say 10 days in total. Again, about 4 to 5 hours, perhaps. And with both programs, actually, this time per day includes probably about 2 hours or so where it's, fixed times. But then the rest of it is fairly either one-to-one or it's working time to actually apply the lessons from the sessions on your specific issues. So you could be working as part of a team, you could be working on your own at a time that makes sense. But it's across those 10 days. Again, modular. There are some sessions which are recorded, but rapid response in particular is very fast paced, as I said, and highly personalized. So there's more of an impetus on participants to be present throughout the duration of the program.
Perfect. Thank you, Tara. And just as a reminder to our audience here, you should see a chat functionality. So if you have any questions, please just put it in there and I will ask the panel your questions. So Lisa, the same question to you, I guess. So we know that the workshops are bite-sized. How long do they go on? How should people be thinking about applying to these, just to make sure that they have time on their schedules and in calendars?
Yeah, so as you said, they're all sort of designed to be bite-sized, but we have 18 in total, but they are segmented into 5 core topics. So each workshop is 45 minutes. So if you think about 45 minutes, it sounds like a large time commitment. But similar to the labs, and as Tara said, these really are sort of open to everyone, and they are segmented into those 5 topics. So if you're looking at sort of the advertising strategy or revenue strategy, you can send teams that deal with that. And you can obviously share them across with the rest of your organization and watch them back on demand. So from a time commitment perspective, again, they're bite-sized, they're only 45 minutes each, but they are designed to sort of fit into your schedule as you need them.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. So we have a question here from Uganda. This is from Alex from the Kampala report. I'm sorry if I'm murdering any of these names. How do we apply to join the digital immersion and rapid response programs? Tara, I think what we'll do is we'll project the links right after this. Tara, if you just want to give, I think you have a short link as well.
Yes, exactly. Very good question. Thank you for that. So I think, as Shweta said, we will include links for the programs. And also you can go to ftstrategies.com/insight/digital immersion program or rapid response to find out more. But the application process is fairly straightforward. So you go to the respective link. There's an application form there which isn't too long or painful, and you complete it. We will then get in touch with you, typically within several days. We may have additional questions, but it's fairly straightforward. Either it's us clarifying a particular point, or us letting you know dates and confirming whether or not you can attend the program, or if we think that there is another program which would be more suited to your specific goals.
Amazing. Thank you, Tara. The next question is with respect to the presentation. So thanks for sharing these great insights. Can you share links to some of the resources on the presentation? So if you go on our website and under the resources section, you should see it. But what we'll also do is circulate the presentations, both from Lisa and Tara, so you have it in your email address IDs. All right, so the next one is for Lisa. With the launch of the workshops in Nigeria last year, what were some key differences you've seen in terms of digital maturity in Nigeria versus what you've seen in Europe? I guess they're just trying to set the stage of why this would be more beneficial in Africa now.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and it's quite a complex one. So I'll try and sort of sum it up a little bit. But we found that there was a huge appetite in Nigeria for the workshops, and we got a huge amount of publishers attending, and we found quite a big mix of publishers actually attending. So some had already started adopting digital tools and using their socials and online presence to their advantage. But at the same time, there were also sort of publishers that were really, really new to it and just sort of dipping their toe in and seeing what was out there. I think there's a few differences within sort of digital adoption that SSA markets are looking at that are slightly different within the European context. And I think that sort of looks at how audiences are engaging with the digital world. So across SSA through online media, there's a much bigger consumption of online sort of media through mobile devices compared with Europe. So that's sort of one key consideration, is that a lot of audiences themselves are actually consuming media in a different way, and that's usually through mobile adoption. So when you're looking at that, you have to also then look at sort of access to data, and how looking at moving towards a more digital revenue strategy, audiences, are your audiences online, and are they able to access your content, and how are you making sure that sort of that's different when you're looking at bandwidths and data considerations. So those are sort of slightly different perspectives that publishers across Nigeria and across sort of most of sub-Saharan Africa have to contend with, in which is different to how sort of European publishers have to think about it. But yeah, from a digital maturity perspective, there are a lot of publishers that sort of are still taking those first steps, but at the same time, there are sort of publishers doing some really things in this space.
Thanks so much, Lisa. I think we noticed the same thing with the labs as well, Tara, where there were a bunch of labs that were started in Europe, and we had a few applications coming in from the region. So it's really, really good that we are actually launching even the labs in Africa now, because the reception was great last year. So the next question is in terms of the one-to-one consultation. So the participants of the labs will have a chance to have one-to-one consultation with consultants from the Financial Times. What would a successful session look like for a publisher looking to grow their online business? This is for Tara.
Yes. So what we wanted to do was to keep the essence of consulting through the programs, recognizing that, yes, it is a cohort-led program. So in a way, we have to almost scale some of the modules and topics covered. But we really wanted to strike the right balance between general insights and knowledge and content with highly bespoke, personalized, customized content. And the consulting sessions allow for that. And we have a flavor of consulting sessions, both in digital immersion as well as the rapid response programs. So what does this look like? So in digital immersion, for example, every single day, you have about half an hour, sometimes more, session with a dedicated consultant. So this is a consultant who is an expert in a particular area. It could be digital growth, it could be reader revenue models, and we will match based on functional need as well as any relevant industry or even cultural experience. And in those sessions, they talk about specific topics that you highlight. So in the past, for example, digital immersion, as I said, you get a diagnostic report from information that you give to us, which benchmarks your performance to date and highlights opportunities for you to build on. So there, for example, we've had some publishers actually coming with that report and say, I have questions on data. We are fairly new in this journey. We want to understand how to get started with understanding the right types of data or building data capabilities from a tools and a people perspective. So the consultant would work with that publisher in that one-to-one session to really try and unpick specific issues, challenges, opportunities, and provide bespoke advice that takes into context that publishers strategic landscape, right, or competitive landscape, or whatever it might be. So this isn't generic information here. It's taking the tried and tested tactics and strategies we have and then adapting it to the specific context that publisher is in. So it's bespoke advice. It's sometimes a little bit of customized analysis, recommendations, and so on. It's obviously a tight amount of time, so there's only so much we can do in those sessions. But thankfully, in digital immersion, we have 5 of those sessions, so every single day. And in rapid response sprints, it is literally us working together, one-on-one. Sometimes we have joint sessions with another publisher, but the majority of the program over the 10 days is us working together, as a cross-functional team on both sides. So you'll have the consultants, you'll have the FT experts, whether it's a designer or someone else, as well as the publisher's team as well. So there's obviously ample opportunity to ask for more specific advice and to focus on more personalized topics for that publisher.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. So we have another question. Hi, I would like to know if you missed one of these workshops, will they be recorded? So I can take that. A couple of things. If you're talking about this session that you're viewing right now, this will be available on the GNI YouTube channel. And if you're talking about the workshops that Lisa mentioned earlier, there is an option to watch it on demand. As long as you register and for some reason are not able to make it live, you can watch it on demand, and we can send you all of those links and things like that once you've registered. The labs, unfortunately, there's a big one-to-one consultation aspect to it, so they won't be recorded. And so we highly recommend that you actually register and apply to those. I think we have a minute or 2 minutes. I can do one last question maybe. So what are some of the examples of tangible tools or frameworks that the program can help us with? Lisa, if you want to take this with respect to the workshops and then pass it on to Tara for the labs, that would be great. Thank you.
Of course. So depending on the topic, we really do work through the full stack of what publishers need, from their business strategy to creating content, through to how to use data to their advantage, and also sort of looking at ads and revenue strategies. So there are lots of tangible tools and frameworks that sort of correspond to each of those broad topics. We look at Google tools such as News Consumer Insights and Real-Time Consumer Insights. I know there's more in-depth sessions coming up on those as well. We also look at Google tools such as Google Ads, but we also learn from case studies and other publishers doing amazing things in the space. So the workshops are action-orientated sessions, and they're really designed to help publishers walk away with tools and frameworks that they can get started with. So across the board, there's lots of different tangible tools and frameworks, as well as hearing a little bit more about sort of some of Google's tools and hearing from publishers. And Tara, I'll hand over to you for the labs.
Thank you. I'll try and do this in 30 seconds. I've mentioned the North Star framework. We also, in digital immersion, have a target data-driven persona building framework. We have the funnel, or actually, as we like to call it, engagement cycle optimization framework, as well as a monetization strategy framework, where we go through a set of access principles that matter to you to help you choose the right monetization strategy for your organization. And in rapid response sprints, as you can imagine, we do a lot of prototyping, building, and testing with customers. So we use frameworks that allows us to, storyboard, UX mapping, and prototyping.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tara and Lisa. I think that's about it from us. Over to you now, Dorothy. And just quickly, if you'll want any of the links, where to register, where to apply to the workshops or the labs, please go to the thing that you see on your screens right now and register. If you have any questions for me, please email us at GNI Digital Growth EMEA, EMEA at google.com. Thanks so much. Over to you, Dorothy.
Thanks, Shweta. Thank you so much, Tara, Lisa, for that amazing session. And thank you all for your engaging questions. Really exciting to see the interest that is drumming up in Africa. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 11:30 a.m. East Africa time, for the News Consumer Insights Workshop. You don't want to miss this. It will be led by Gracia Odon, our EMEA News Consumer Insights lead from Google. You will learn about how to increase your reader revenue and reader engagement on your website by discovering more about the News Consumer Insights tool. For now, I want to thank you for joining us and for participating, and have a great day, and see you tomorrow.